Alright, these two cells should look very familiar because we just talked about it and we just ended our unit on the plant and animal cells. Alright, so for now we're going to say goodbye for science. For now, that is. Of course, we will always be back to science. And we're going to say hello to social studies. So let's think about it. Let's take a minute to remember where we left off at, because it was a few weeks ago. Alright, so remember we talked about immigration. We had our first group that came from these European countries over here, and they traveled all the way to America. And who remembers where they landed? If you said Ellis Island, you are correct. So remember our first group of Europeans, they came on over to America, and they landed at Ellis Island, which is in New York. Then we had our other group that came from the Asian countries. That's all of this right here. And they traveled and they landed on this side of America. Who remembers what island they landed on over here? That would be Angel Island in California. Is any of this ringing a bell? I hope so. Alright, so just remember they had a few difficulties when they came. They did not speak the language. The only job they could get were really in factories because they could not speak the language, which means they also did not make tons of money, so their quality of life was not always the best. Alright, we also learned about farming. So remember we learned about farming in the South where they owned these huge plantations, but slavery ended, so they couldn't maintain these large farms. And you also had people who did not own farms. So remember that word sharecropper? Remember that means you can borrow somebody's land, but you also had to pay them for this. Eventually we had new technologies pop up, such as the tractor, to help move the process along for farming, and so it didn't take so long. People also migrated out west for more farming, and remember that land was a little bit more tough, so they grew more things such as wheat. But of course, more technology started to grow and less people could get jobs in farming. So where did they move to? The city. People started to move into the city where they can get jobs in factories. So that is where we left off, and now we're going to jump on into our new unit in social studies, and we're going to learn all about World War I.